It's a been so good. Thank you, Lord. Mercy is there. You've been so good. Ah. All right. Welcome in, everybody, as we're getting settled. This is the first time I'm doing this live. It's going to really be about people pleasing. And so, if that's something that interests you, if you feel like you are people pleaser, recovering people pleaser, you're not sure, this may be the room for you today. And so, we're going to have some tough conversations around the topic of people pleasing, and what it is at its core and how we can overcome people pleasing. So as we're waiting for everyone to kind of come in, just listen to the music as you're coming in. Just say where you're watching from. I'm in Georgia, and so if you are, tell me what state you're coming from as you're coming in. Welcome. This is actually going to be, I'm very transparent. So this is the first time you're seeing my live. I tend to be very transparent and just be honest about the different struggles that I go through in life. But this people pleasing one has been, yeah, it's been a real eye opener. So I say that to say it's not a very comfortable topic for me. But what I want to do is I want to build, I want to facilitate, I want to make room, a space for recovering people pleasers. This might be the first time you're even seeing this, like people pleasing. I didn't think I was a people pleaser. So today we're gonna kind of talk about what it is, what it looks like. You may be a people pleaser, you may not be. You may have some resources or references that you can share if it's something that you struggle with. But I've seen a lot of things shared on TikTok and just on social media in general, knowing that I'm not the only one out there struggling with this, or just realizing, or maybe didn't even know I was a people pleaser. Definitely recovering from that. The moment it was identified, I've been working diligently on coming out of that mindset, coming out. It's really like a habit. It's really an addiction at its core. So, welcome in. Let's talk about people pleasing. This is a space because a lot of times, too, people don't realize they're doing it. And then there's no outlet for us to talk about or to even kind of, highlight like, hey, this is something that I do. I didn't realize how damaging it was to me. And so we want to just kind of start out with talking about it. How do you detect it? And I can automatically say, one of the ways you can identify if you are a people pleaser is like, do you identify yourself as the strong friend? Are you always dependable, but yet find yourself being resentful for always showing up for people? Do you notice you always show up for people and then you realize, like, you know what? No one shows up for me in the same regards as I show up for them. Like, you're always the yes person. They can always look to you to get the job done. And in a lot of ways, sometimes, at least I can speak for myself, that is a type of, boost. You find you get value from always being able to show up for people. You may, almost like having a savior complex, always being the one with all the answers, knowing what to say or do, but not realizing what you're doing to yourself in the same instance. So a lot of times it's easier to always show up for others, but are you allowing people to show up for you? So there's a lot to talk about today. So, welcome in, come in, say hello in the chat. Tell me where you're from. Tell me when and how you knew that you were a people pleaser, because it's a lot of us out here. And so we're building a community here to strengthen each other, no shame here. So there's no shame in this space when we identify and just really examine what it is today. So like, as we're waiting for more people to come in the room and have this conversation, because like I said, we're building a community. We don't want this to be an area that keeps us back. In a lot of areas, we don't realize how we self-sabotage with the people pleasing behavior. So we're going to look more deeper into it. We're going to really expose it and talk about it and, give tools, give some resources, give ways and advice on how to overcome it. But even to have accountability on, to being able to come out of agreement with people pleasing, because it damages your life more than you realize, because it's hard to detect because you think you're being nice. Right? You think you're showing up for people. You're a nice person. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, right? But the reality is, if you are always showing up for others, it's a possibility you might be abandoning yourself in the process. And then that doesn't help anyone, right? So we just want to build a community. So if this interests you, come in. If you're out on the FYP and you're a little intrigued about people pleasing, if you have already identified and just want somewhere to talk about it and to be able to connect, come in, join in the conversation today. So basically, we'll be meeting every Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern time to really have a conversation about people pleasing. And so for anyone who's just popping in, just want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Abigail. I am the Warrior Princess. I'm in the business of setting captives free. The best way I do that is by exposing the lies and teaching the truth of God's word. So yes, this is a faith-based community, but this is not restricted to only those in the faith. We want to have a community for anyone to be able to come into this space. This is a safe space to let's talk about people pleasing and how we can overcome it. And so the best way really to overcome is to first be able to identify, right? And so later on, I'll go into, because we even have steps too. It's going to be almost similar to AAA. If you know, there's not the towing company, the other AAA, as far as having this community with a step program into recovering fully from being a people pleaser, right? And so like I mentioned a little bit earlier, as far as like how do you identify a people pleaser, you might be able to identify as a people pleaser if you notice that you're always showing up for others. Whether people show up for you or not, sometimes you show up for others to the detriment of yourself. A lot of good ways, if you're a people pleaser, you struggle with saying no. You don't realize no is a sentence. Like, you don't have to explain yourself. So maybe you always find yourself to always be over explaining. You always find yourself to always have to, it's not almost, it is an addiction of approval. That's what people pleasing is at its core. It's an addiction of approval. And in a lot of ways, it's idolatry. I'm not gonna go too much into that. Again, this is a safe space. This is a space that's, free from shame and guilt and all of that. But we need to be able to call out certain things if we want to be free from it in our lives. And I know for me personally, I want to be free from people pleasing. The moment it was like exposed, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I did it. I didn't even realize how much certain things was connected. And so the moment I realized, I started looking, I was like, this is like, I need help. Like, I cannot do this alone. I need a community to be able to talk some of these things through because for so long I went on not realizing I was a people pleaser, right? Because I thought being a people, and it's different kinds. It shows up differently. Hey, Michaela, welcome in. Thank you for your heart, me. And so it shows up differently. So I'm gonna speak by myself. When I thought about people pleasers, I just thought that you just always, wanted to be around the crowd. Like, I don't need a lot of friends. I was never like, I'm an introvert. So usually most time when you see me, I'm like reserved by myself. I'm not necessarily shy. I just don't need a lot of people around me, right? And so I thought a people pleaser was one who always, have to do something to gain people attention or validation, but it shows up differently, right? Because for me, it's like, well, if you don't like me, that's cool. Like, if you don't like me, I'm not going to fight to try to make you like me, right? And that's what I thought a people pleaser was. That's one kind of a people pleaser, but it also shows up when you can't take a person being upset with you. A huge way to even realize if you're a people pleaser is if you feel responsible for other people's emotions. If they're upset with you, you feel like you have to do something to change their emotions. They have to manage your emotions. And unfortunately, a lot of these things were attachment issues that we learn as children. Now, I'm not saying like if you did something to hurt someone's feelings or, that hurt someone, I'm not saying that you don't like take accountability for your actions, but really their emotions is not our responsibility. So if you find like, oh, I have to do this because I don't want them to feel this way towards me. And what I realized even along the process of my healing journey, realizing that it's even linked to control, that you are trying to control people's perception of you. So you will do whatever to make sure they have a certain perception of you. It shows up many different ways. Like, I'm hoping as like more people comes in. Yep. Over explaining. Thank you, Leila. Absolutely. Over explaining. That's it. That's one of the parts that I struggle with a lot. Thank you for the heart, me. I definitely struggle with the over explaining a lot. And again, this is not a teaching room. By nature, I do teach, but this is a community. So I want you guys to engage with me because I'm not coming in here as a expert. I'm just coming in from my experience, and we're building a community because I believe, iron sharpens irons. And when we have a place to be able to talk on things, call out certain things so we can help heal and grow, right? Because we want to elevate. We don't want to stay stuck in a survival mindset. We want to grow. We want to, do better in life. We just don't want to stay stagnant. But if a lot of you, if you feel like you're in a place and you feel stagnant, you feel like you can't move, I promise for a lot of you, this is an issue. So the more we address it as a community to kind of talk about it, like, listen. And again, I am a person, I do not partner with shame at all. So anytime anyone brings up even the word shame, like, I'm ready to cast it down. I do not agree with shame in any form or fashion because God does not use shame on us. So I don't believe that, but I do want to cultivate a safe space for us to kind of talk about it, be vulnerable and transparent because that's how we heal. Yep. Me too. I tend to over explain myself and over apologize. The over apologizing was one that, I had to work on as well. So that's the thing. Like, I may, in some areas, I might be a little bit more ahead than others. I have some tips and tools that I can say, like, how that helped me. But you might have it for another area that I might not think of, and we're gonna work this thing out, right? So I appreciate you guys for joining in. If you want to even open up a panel and let's talk about it, I would love to do that at some point. But this is like the first one, so we're really just kind of like breaking up the ground to like let's expose people pleasing for what it really is, right? And so we already mentioned like the over explaining, the constantly apologizing. And as you brought that up, I'm so thankful because I didn't even have that in my notes, but I just feel led to speak about it as far as the over explaining. And so let's work on that. Let's kind of make it like a target for like the next week until we come back to catch how many times you say sorry, or let's more say I'm sorry. Right? That's one of the things I had to catch myself, because I would say sorry for anything, everything, right? But here's the reality of it is when you say I'm sorry, it's not saying that you don't feel any guilt for the action that you did that may be wrong, but sometimes we say it when we didn't even do anything wrong, right? But saying I'm sorry all the time is like you're taking ownership of something that does not belong to you, one, but then also two, it's almost like you're saying I'm sorry about who I am. It almost like you're sorry about your identity. And that's why I wanted to attack it, right? So when we say I'm sorry, and there's other words that we can say other than sorry, because depending on what it is now, it may be a situation where, so I just try to take it out of my vocabulary first. Like the first thing was I had to realize that first, let's see how much times I say I'm sorry. You could say like, someone, oh, that's a perfect example. Like, let's say maybe you had an appointment to be somewhere and you were late, right? Instead of coming up and say, well, I'm so sorry I'm late. Thank you for your patience, right? Because when we're saying I'm sorry, it's almost as if you are like internally attacking yourself. First, and maybe you were late because it was your fault, or maybe not, right? But sometimes it's just to even take sorry out of your vocabulary as much as possible. Now, I'm a little better. Before I used to say sorry for everything. Like if I'm late, and again, this is not saying you don't not appreciate people's time or anything like that. Why we're taking out the I'm sorry is because of how it attacks our identity. It rips away of who you are. It's almost like you're sorry for showing up as who you are, right? So let's say even maybe you have like this bubbly personality, you like to talk a lot, and you might be in a setting where people are not necessarily complaining, but you could tell like, okay, maybe I'm a little lot, and you say like, oh, I'm so sorry I talk a lot. No, you do not be sorry for who you are. Now, if it's something you need to take accountability for, especially like saying time is like, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you waiting for me, but I'm not sorry. I'm not. So for me, it's like, I am no longer going to be sorry for who I am. No matter what you're saying I'm sorry for, it's almost like you're saying I'm sorry the way I am. I'm sorry, for how I present. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry anymore. I'm not. Now, again, I'm not saying we're not going to take accountability for anything. I feel, yep. I'm telling you, that's why I'm glad. Because when I first recognized certain things, when it was exposed, I'm like, I need a community that I can talk about this stuff, because I didn't realize I was doing it. I didn't realize how much I was people pleasing, and it was bad. Again, I'm not saying I'm not, I'm not fully like on the other side. I'm a little ways ahead, but I still got a long way to go. But I want to help others who may be a little bit behind me and gain from those who are a little bit ahead of me. And that's why this community is so, so, so important for me, that I want us to meet like every Monday and more times if needed, right? But I just wanted to create that community for us to be able to talk about these things, because a people pleasing is an attack on your identity, and you don't even realize it. And that's a problem, because if you're not secure in your identity, if you're not secure in that place, you will crumble. And here's what I realized too, even with the over explaining, right? So what I realized why I was doing it was because I felt unsafe. I felt that people misunderstanding me was dangerous. So my nervous system, so I would always over explain. By nature, I'm a teacher, so I do just naturally explain things a lot, and not like a teacher with kids. Like, I like to teach the Bible. I teach in my own capacity, but it's not kids. I don't hate kids. I just don't have the grace for that, right? So, but by nature, I explain things, right? And I just need to make sure that you get it, because I want to make sure you understand. So I always be like, hey, make sure you ask me any questions. I don't want you to understand, right? Because my nervous system rather took like misunderstanding as danger. That was something that I gained, like I learned as a child. And so I had to get to the place where I'm like, and I still tell myself now, misunderstanding, I'm safe when I'm misunderstood. I'm safe when I'm misunderstood, because I grew up my whole life, people judging me, misunderstanding me. One of the things I even learned along my journey is that I was neurodivergent. So when you see me in a public setting, I sometimes come off like I miss social cues. I do. Now, some of them I get, but others, they go like straight over my head. I'm safe even when I'm misunderstood. Absolutely. You are. But here's the thing. The attack on your identity is why we don't feel secure in who we are, right? So there was a lot of things about myself that I didn't necessarily hate, but because it wasn't well received externally by people, it wasn't validated outwardly, I thought something was wrong with me. So internally, I self-loathed some of the things that I did, not realizing that's literally how I'm wired. I'm wired this way. So God made me a certain way. Nothing is wrong with me. I just didn't understand, right? I just didn't understand how I was created. And so the more I would pray, ask God, help me to understand. Help me to understand myself. And then realizing that if people misunderstand me, I'm still safe, because I cannot control people's perception of me. When I realized like, oh, dang, like I was trying to control. And again, sometimes control may not necessarily be manipulative in nature, but like it is manipulation, but not malicious. Sometimes your intent is not to be malicious, to manipulate a person, but you just want to make sure things, work right so you can feel more safe, right? And so the more I start to understand how God created me, understand my identity, the less other people understanding me felt unsafe. And I had to tell myself, misunderstanding is I'm still safe when I'm misunderstood. Misunderstanding does not mean danger anymore. But I had to get to a place that I had to literally have conversations with myself and put like my hand on my body. It's like, hey, it's okay. Misunderstanding is not danger. That's not danger. I'm safe. And then the more secure I become in who God called me to be and just understanding myself, a little easier it became for me not have to just, not explaining myself. And I still catch myself a couple of times, be like, I need to make sure, no, we don't have to understand. Unless they ask, do not give that extra information, Abigail. So I'm still walking it out, but I'm just hoping that who all is here with me, you kind of get it, right? I would say I'm weirdly, or differently. I like differently. Yeah. I used to say like, I'm one of a kind. I'm an anomaly. But what I learned though, even is like, what I learned is like, I'm different. I like differently. I didn't think about that. I really like that. I'm going to use that. I'm differently, but not I think it was another D word. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm not defective. I'm just different, and different is okay. I thought a lot of ways, because I didn't fit into other people's mold. Yes, unique. I am not defective. I am just different. And when I realized that, God, you created me like this, help me understand why. And then what that helped was with that, when I learned, okay, I was created differently, I started to understand why. I was able to set up better boundaries for myself, because I understood, okay, well, I can't do this, but for so many times, so that helped me to even have more self-compassion and care for myself. And that's one of the things too I want to talk about with people pleasing, because we end up neglecting ourselves to show up for others. right? Who can say that? Like it, and it shows up in so many different ways. And some of the stuff isn't like necessarily like bad things. We just need to have balance. We need to learn how to have, it's everything in moderation, right? To be able to have boundaries, right? And so people pleasing, like I can't wait to just even talk about how I even got to figure out like, oh, dang, you're a people pleaser and how it shows up, right? So I don't know if anyone wants to come up and just share their experiences with people pleasing, because it is interesting. And so, like I said, it's actually an addiction. When I realized and I studied and looked into it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to people's approval. And I knew it was really bad when it got to a place where, and this is why I said it was idolatry, whereas I know there were some things that I should have said or approached, but I didn't want to say because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I didn't want them to receive me a certain way. So whereas God is leading me to say something, and I didn't. And so in that moment, it was as if I was exalting that individual above God, because God gave me a directive and I couldn't do it because I was more afraid of what they would have thought of me than what God would think of me. Imagine that. And that's why I said it's like, when you really dig into it, it's like, yeah, this is not safe. And, but I need help. I can't do everything on my own. That's why I need a community. I need to be able to talk some things out. One of the things I had to learn too is the having the responsibility, or trying to really take on not you take accountability for your own actions, but take responsibility for other people's emotions. So it's like, it would be so uncomfortable, especially if someone was upset with me. And, and here's the thing, this is not anybody, it's just certain people. But nonetheless, it still shows up, right? Like some other people, like if it's a stranger, I could care less. Like if you don't like me, you don't like me, cool, right? But it's the relationship that you have with your family, at church, at work. That's where you start to see that, when you have more closer interpersonal relationship, and you don't want them to be upset with you. You don't want to hurt their feelings, right? And again, there's a difference between nice and kind. And we'll talk about that too, because a lot of times we do things just out of being nice, but that's not the same thing of being kind. Because kind, you can do things with kindness, but it doesn't always feel good sometimes. But nice is like, you're more so like, I'm gonna just do everything they want because I don't want them to be upset with me. And that in and of itself is control. And so the more you realize like how control has seeped into your life, listen, I can only speak for myself. It's like, I'm gonna let that go, because I definitely don't want no parts of control, because control is witchcraft, and I don't want no parts, unfortunately. But I do want to have a community for us to be talking about these things. Yep. Control is witchcraft. That's what it is. See, the enemy has been able to really deceive a lot of Christians because they don't understand a lot. And so a lot of times when we think of witchcraft, we think of the hocus pocus, the big cauldron and them putting up potions and stuff like that. And that is a thing. But at its core, witchcraft is manipulation, control. That's what it is. But even when you think of, the extreme end of actual witches that we see on TV, it's still a way to try to control people. It's just the way that you do it. So the more that you partner with control, the more you're really partnering with the enemy. Even as, as well-meaning as you may mean. Yeah, I heard repeatedly hearing control is witchcraft over and over. Yeah. 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 It is. It is. It is. It don't feel good realizing that. I know. It was hard for me. And again, a lot of times, even when it's you just don't want to be in a place where you control people. God does not control. He influences, and there's a huge, major difference. Yeah. Influence is actually more powerful and more healthy depending on what you're influencing. But when we talk about it from the biblical perspective, it's better to be an influence than to control. And so a lot of things, at the people pleasing at its core, when you really dig into it, it may not show up the same for everyone, but it is a form of control. And again, that doesn't mean that person was trying to be malicious with it, but when we know and try to do better, right? And so, yeah. But this is why we're here, right? To learn these things and to kind of grow out of it. And the expectation isn't even to say like, okay, stop doing it like immediately, right? Some of these things, if we've been doing it for long enough times, it's not going to be an overnight process. That's why I wanted to build this community for recovering people pleasers. Go ahead and declare that you're recovering from this thing, because we want to expose the lies, but we want to be able to still help others grow, give them tools for each other, like to share. I don't know everything. I'm still working this thing out. It's just every time I learn a little something, I want to share because I didn't know. And the moment I knew, listen, I'm ready to put a stop to it immediately, right? But just even learning balance with it too, because it's like some people go to the far extreme, because like when they realize like they were having a hard time saying, no, now they just say no to everything. It was like, we want to have balance. You don't want to just switch up from being like nice one day and then the next day you just automatically just mean. Let's kind of stay in the middle, right? And so that's why this community is so important for us to have, because we'll just be able to learn some tips and some things that we can do to not fall into the same traps as others. So we could be like, hey, I remember with this, and then it'll be hard too, getting to the point where as you need to be able to set up boundaries. That was like a curse word for me. One sure tell way to know if you are a people pleaser, you have little to no boundaries. Just none. You just all freely doing everything, freely saying yes, not counting the cost, not even considering if it's something that you can do because you want to show up for people, right? And again, in a one sense, it's not bad, because sometimes you just generally want to help, right? But sometimes there's some things that lay dormant that we don't realize is there, even as small of it. God wants us to deal with that so we can really, truly, live our lives to our full potential. And so I've rambled enough. I don't know if anyone had any questions. I hope I caught everyone who popped in. I think I kept my mind on the chat, so I was able to see. And this is still fairly new for me, so I appreciate those who popped in and have patience with me. See the difference? Being like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. No, I appreciate. No, it's like I appreciate your patience with jumping in here with me and staying on this live versus me apologizing for who I am or what I've done, And again, that's not the same to say you're apologizing for, something. We're talking about the I'm sorry. So as we're closing, just in case if anyone has any questions, I hope to see you guys back, because we have so much to talk about. I don't even think I even tapped into everything, right? So just to show you what's even to come with the People Pleasers Anonymous, we have a 8 program. So I'm going to eventually get into just doing a little teaching, because that's who I am. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to always turn into teaching. But basically, it's an 8-week step program. And it's not whereas everyone has to be on the same level. You might stay a little long on one step. But for the next 8 weeks, we're going to basically go over, each step and just kind of talk about each step, and maybe just kind of even, or just kind of flow really. But I just want to just kind of share the program of the platform that I'm building for people pleasers. I was like, what's that noise? Thank you so much. Thank you for the roses. Thank you, Michaela. And so I'm super excited for this community, for everyone who was able to join in. Super excited. And so basically each week we'll go over what program that you have. So I'll just share the first one, which is awareness. And that's what we're doing. We're talking about it because you first need to be aware. So next week we'll probably just go into a little bit more of really identifying what it is, giving some examples, and I'm hoping you guys can even share. Of course, share the room, but like share in the room as far as, some experiences. And definitely if you have questions or scenarios that you weren't sure about, like if you are open to sharing those, or if you just want to private message me with those, like I'll be happy to answer like any questions or even use those in some of the things that we talk about in the upcoming weeks. But definitely if you're open to share publicly, that's great. But again, it's okay to be anonymous because it is People Pleasers Anonymous. So you don't have to necessarily reveal your identity or reveal certain things, but definitely if you have any concerns or questions, I want to definitely make sure I cover those. And so they would help me know how to bring forth things that I know people are needing, right? And so if you are struggling with it, I promise you someone else is too. And it may not be something where only you are dealing with it. You just may be the one person that was bold enough to actually ask the question. You'll see like several different people be like, oh, that's good. Like, so sometimes you might be the one courageous one to jump out. So thank you guys so much. I'm not sure how long the room will last, just depending on the engagement. So I think I'll try to keep it at least 30 minutes. And then if, we can go longer if others have. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you. You're making me so much more at peace, getting used to, doing these lives. Because being a recovering people pleaser, doing these lives like this is hard. Like any other place, like I'll be fine, but I don't know, it was just something about doing these TikTok lives. Like my first live, like I was a nervous wreck. So thank you guys for being here, making this easier for me. We're building a great community here to grow and to overcome approval addiction, because that is what people pleasing is. Thank you so much. You became a title gifter, Michaela. Thank you. So I'm gonna stop rambling for just a moment, just in case if anyone has any questions. People pleasing is also retrieving into their shell, right? Because lately I tried to change my voice. Yeah, it can be, because you are shifting or changing based off of how someone either received you or didn't receive you. So yes, it all still ties in. That's why I said it's really an attack on your identity. It's an attack on your identity ultimately. And the thing is, why it goes so unnoticed for so long is because it's not that you're doing anything bad, right? It's not that you're doing anything bad, but the reason is, why are you doing those things, right? And so God wants people to be free from people pleasing, and that's why I'm here. Starts with me. That's why I say I'm the warrior princess. I'm in the business of setting captives free. And I believe the Lord starts with me. And the moment I'm free, I'm ready to start setting as many free as possible. Like if I was bound by a lie, no, who else is bound by this lie? Because now I need to set you free. You got I'm almost like a Harriet Tubman. Like I got free, and I'm gonna go back for each and every person who's still bound by this particular lie or whatever lies. And so that's why I'm here. I'm so thankful for everyone that showed up. And so I lasted a lot longer than I thought. So my God is really good, y'all. And again, thank you for indulging me. I hope to see you guys again. Share the room. If you haven't followed me, follow me. I have a lot of different content ideas that I'm doing. On Wednesdays, I actually do Wise Wives Wednesday, whereas we basically, take wisdom from the women in the Bible. So there's a specific wife for women in the Bible. And so the last week we did Eve, and this week we're going to be doing Ruth. So guys, tuning on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. for the Wise Wednesdays. And there's some other stuff that I have coming up. So if you follow me, there's a lot that I have in my arsenal. There's even some more outside of those two. But for right now, I'm committing to Monday and Wednesdays, and more to come. I'll do pop-up rooms. I love music, so I'll have like some pop-up rooms like where I just play music, worship music. I love music. So any type of worship music, or let me say Christian music, because it's not just worship music, it has different genres within, Christian music. And so I'll do like different rooms and stuff, like just pop-up rooms or yeah, stuff like that. So look forward for all the stuff that God has for us coming up. So I hope to see you guys next week or even Wednesday, but definitely next week as we go delve deeper into people pleasing, the approval addiction, and how to overcome it. Thank you guys.